أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبا القاسم محمد عليه وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين، روح وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفدا، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين منذ آدم إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعلها الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيد الشهداء أبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام. On the eve of Ashura, we send our condolences to Imam al-Zaman Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif, and to the Holy Heart of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wa Alih for the tragedy that is to befall the son and the grandson of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wa Alih and the daughters of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wa Alih. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Holy Quran, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. In Surah Al-Ahzab, Ayah 23, Allah Azza wa Jal says, of the believers are men who are true to the covenant which they made with Allah. So of them is he who accomplished his vow, and of them is he who waits, and they have not changed in the least. Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. In the establishment of the divine government of Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam, which has been our topic this Muharram, and we have discussed the characteristics of this government, and we have discussed its objectives, and we have discussed its plans, and we delved into the tools used by the Imam alayhi salam in establishing this universal government of divine justice. And of the main tools that the Imam alayhi salam will use, and an essential tool, and it is the tool which applies to us the most as believers in the Imam and in the advent of the Imam, and as those who are awaiting the Imam. The Imam Salamullahi alayhi, as we have been discussing and as we have shown, has a pretty extensive project. He has a very, very extensive project and a very extensive mission. And this mission, as we discussed, is to encompass all of existence and not just the heavens and the earth. And it is the establishment of the final divine government, the government which is to rule the earth how Allah Azza wa Jal intended. Is the Imam Salamullahi alayhi expected to perform all of this by himself? Is the Imam alayhi salam a one-man army? Or does he Salamullahi alayhi have supporters and soldiers and people that will gather around him before his advent, as the hadith by Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam, where he says, blessed are those, or glad tidings to those who follow the Imam before his coming. Meaning they are supporters of Imam Al-Mahdi alayhi salam before the advent of Imam Al-Mahdi alayhi salam. How are they supporters of him before his advent? Meaning they are the ones who understand the mission of the Imam Salamullahi alayhi, and they are the ones who prepare the earth for the coming of the Imam Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif. Logic tells us that this Imam, like the Imams before him, will have Shia, will have followers, will have Ansar, he will have supporters. And through these supporters, the Imam alayhi salam establishes his government and carries out the justice he has been entrusted with. And it is tonight, for many of us, tonight is the night of Ashura, and it is the night of the Ashab. It is the night of the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And we dedicate this night, which is the night in which the companions of al-Hussein alayhi salam were preparing themselves for the martyrdom between the hands of al-Hussein alayhi salam. In honor of them, we dedicate this night to discussing the characteristics of the companions of Imam al-Mahdi salamullahi alayhi. And the companions are of two kinds. There are the generals, the ashab of the Imam, the khawas, and these we can split into many groups. These aren't who we'll be discussing tonight. Inshallah, in coming nights we'll discuss these particular ashab. The supporters that we want to discuss are the general population, those who are welcomed into the government of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. The characteristics of the soldiers of the Imam salamullahi alayhi, the foot soldiers of Imam al-Mahdi. We find in the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhum salam several characteristics. And in the Holy Quran we find several characteristics, inshallah. And each one of these characteristics we can speak for several lectures on. But for time's sake, inshallah, we'll be touching very briefly tonight on a few of these characteristics. So that we may, you and I, inshallah, endeavor and struggle to be amongst those who are with the Imam alayhi salam before his advent. The first characteristic that we find in the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhum salam is that these followers of Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif are what we call aqaidi. They have a strong belief system. They have a firm belief system. They have certainty in their religious convictions. They do not sway. They do not fear being questioned. They do not fear innovation. Nothing can turn them away from this path and from these convictions. In a narration attributed to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, وَرِجَالٌ كَأَنَّ قُلُوبَهُمْ زُبَرِ الْحَدِيدِ لَا يَشُوبُهَا شَكٌّ فِي ذَاتِ اللَّهِ. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says they are men or women and their hearts are like steel or iron. They are not wavered by any misconceptions regarding Allah Azza wa Jal. They are certain about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this certainty is deeply embedded in their hearts. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says regarding the followers of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam regarding this certainty, he says, عَرَفُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ مَعْرِفَتِهِ وَهُمْ أَنصَارِ الْمَهْدِ فِي آخِرِ الزَّمَانِ. They know Allah Azza wa Jal to the truest form of ma'rifah. And they are the followers of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. This conviction, brothers and sisters, this ma'rifah is required from all of us. It is not enough and it is not sufficient for me to come and claim that I am a believer in the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal. If I am incapable of proving it first to myself and secondly defending this aqeedah, this faith, if anyone was to throw any questions at me or any misconception at me, I'm not wavered. I do not sway. My foundations are not shook. It is required from us to come to Allah Azza wa Jal through knowledge. When we read in the Holy Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rejects those who have taken their religion as an inheritance. They have inherited this religion of their fathers and forefathers and of society. This may very well apply to us. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. If our religion is not solid, if our religion is not embedded in our intellect and in our hearts, then any misconception thrown at us or any devil with a sweet tongue may come and sway us from this path and wrongfully convince us in an ideology or a theology or a philosophy which is un-Islamic. The soldiers of Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam are not like this. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam is very clear. He says their hearts are firm, meaning they have reached conviction, meaning they have searched, they have studied, and through their struggle towards Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has implanted or shone in their hearts the light of certainty and planted their feet firm in the ground. Nothing will convince them otherwise. This is the first description. The second one is that they are awaiting, they are muntadirun. In a narration by Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, من سره أن يكون من أصحاب القائم فلينتظر. The one who wishes to be amongst the companions of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, then let him be amongst those who await him. And the meaning here of awaiting is not to simply wait, not to simply sit around and wait for the Imam alayhi salam, as we'll see in the coming narrations. In a narration by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, where he says to us, the best deeds of my ummah, the best deed, أفضل أعمال أمتي انتظار الفرج. The best deed for my ummah is to await salvation or await the relief, i.e. awaiting Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam. But we know in Islam we have several deeds. We have salat, we have sawm, we have hajj, we have jihad, we have zakat, we have sadaqah, we have ziyarat al-awliya alayhum salam. Above all of this, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, what's he say? Better than all of these things is awaiting relief, awaiting Imam al-Mahdi. From this narration we understand that the Imam or that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi is not referring to simple waiting, simply just sitting around and waiting. There's no merit in this. There is no merit in just sitting around and waiting. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi is talking about actively waiting, i.e. preparing. In every aspect of their lives, they are preparing for the advent of the Imam and the coming of the Imam and the establishment of this divine government. And they are eagerly praying for it and they are expecting it any day. These are those who are awaiting. They can smell it. يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا. The enemies view it, the coming of the Imam, as far away. وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. And we view it as if it is near. At any moment, the one who is anxiously waiting, it is like one waiting for a loved one. Sisters, you can relate more to this example. When a brother is coming to ask for your hand, the night he is coming, him and his family, to meet your family, All day you are eagerly waiting. You have gone, you've gotten dressed, you've fixed yourself up, you've made sure the house is clean. You've given your parents orders and commandments. Father, don't say this to him. Mum, don't treat him like this. Don't embarrass me. Don't do this. You've made sure your siblings are in order. You've created a ruckus in the house for the last few days because your loved one is coming. On a greater scale, on a more grandiose scale, those waiting for the Imam alayhi salam are actively waiting like this. They are preparing themselves. They are preparing their homes. They are preparing society. They are preparing the world for the advent of the Imam alayhi salam. This is the waiting that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi speaks of. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, has another narration. He says, بين شباب الشيعة على ظهور سطوحهم نيام إذ توافوا إلى صاحبهم في ليلة واحدة على غير ميعاد فيصبحون بمكة. They are waiting in such a manner that these shabab, the youth of the Shia, says that as if I see them on their roofs of their homes, they are asleep, but awaiting the Imam at any second now. And at the advent of the Imam, because they are actively waiting for him, even though they are asleep on the roofs of their homes, in a split second, they will find themselves awoken, where? In Mecca. At the advent of the Imam alayhi salam, answering his call at the Kaaba. Allahu Akbar. Imagine that. Imagine your heart is so thirsty for the Imam salamullahi alayhi and the government of the Imam alayhi salam. Craving his presence more than a thirsty child craves water. Craving his presence to the point where this love and this craving for the Imam alayhi salam drives you, no matter where you are in the world, no matter where you sleep, the night of the advent of the Imam alayhi salam, this love will carry you to Mecca so that you are between the hands of Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman alayhi salam. And the Imam knows those who love him. And he knows those who have prepared themselves and have prepared their homes and their families and their friends and have prepared the world for his advent. In another narration, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says, وَالْمُنْتَظَرْ لِأَمْرِنَا كَالْمُتَشَحِّطْ بِدَمِهِ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Allahu Akbar. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam is saying the one who is awaiting Amr. See, Imam Ali alayhi salam. Look how beautiful this is. We said Imam al-Baqir salamullahi alayhi, when he refers to the government of Imam al-Mahdi, he says that dawlatuna, our government. Our government. So it's just the government of al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan alayhi salam. It's our government. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, look what he refers to it. Al-Muntadhar li-amrina. The one who is awaiting our cause. This is the cause of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ya Shi'at Ali, the cause of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. This is his cause. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he views the government of al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan as his cause. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, when he speaks about the advent of the Imam alayhi salam, what's he say? He says, oh, how I wish I could be between them. Your Imam, Hujjatullah ala al-Khalq, Sadiq Ali Muhammad, wishes to be amongst you, those who are in Asr al-Ghaiba, you and I. Imam al-Sadiq salamullahi alayhi craves our presence. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam envies our role. The Imam himself says, and were I to be present at the advent of Al Mahdi, I would be his servant. Ja'far ibn Muhammad alayhi salam is saying this. Not me. Ja'far ibn Muhammad would love to be in your position. In the position of those who have been blessed. In the position of those who have been mentioned by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi to be his what? His loved ones. In the famous narration, Sunnatan wa Shi'a have narrated this hadith, where the Holy Messenger is sitting with his companions and he says, where are my loved ones? And his companions say to him, Ya Rasulullah, are we not your loved ones? He says, no, by Allah, you are my companions. You are my companions. You followed me because you saw me. You followed me because you saw me. My loved ones are those who come at the end of time. At the end of time. Who believed in me without even seeing me. How strong is our belief? We believe in a God we have not seen. We believe in a prophet we have not met. We are anxiously awaiting and preparing the earth for an Imam in occultation who has been veiled from our eyes. Is this not the embodiment of الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ? Those who believe in the unseen? We must be madmen when the rest of the world look at us. They must think we are absolutely insane. To have this belief in this Imam and work for this Imam, and we have not seen him. He has been veiled from our eyes. Yet we treat him, salamullahi alayhi, as if he is forever present, physically. When we enter these majalis of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, our condolences are sent to Imam Mahdi salamullahi alayhi, as if he is sitting amongst those who are mourning. This is intidhar. This is truly awaiting the Imam alayhi salam. Carrying on. The companions of the Imam alayhi salam are strong, aqwiya. أقوياء عن الإمام الصادق عليه السلام وما يخرج إلا في أولي القوى. And he does not come out except with those who are strong. Strength is a condition of the soldiers of the Imam عليه السلام. In another narration, عن الصادق عليه السلام إن قلب رجل منهم أشد من زبر الحديد لو مروا بجبال الحديد لتدكتكت لا يكفون سيوفهم حتى يرضى الله عز وجل. Their hearts are like pillars of iron, rods of iron. If they were to pass by mountains of iron, these mountains would crumble by them, and they will not rest, nor will they sheathe their swords, يعني they will not return their swords back to their covers until Allah Azza wa Jal is pleased with them. Look what the Quran says about these people. This strength that they have, this bravery that is required. In Surah Al-Imran, in Surah Al-Imran, verse 173. Look at this description. الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم. Those to whom the people said, surely men have gathered against you, therefore fear them. What is their response? فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. but it increases their faith, and they said, Allah is sufficient for us, and most excellent is the protector. Strength, brothers and sisters, is commanded by Allah Azza wa Jal. We said a few nights ago when we were discussing enjoining good and forbidding evil, the narration by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, where Allah Azza wa Jal, where Rasulullah says that Allah Azza wa Jal despises, yabghad al-mu'min al-da'if. Allah Azza wa Jal despises the weak believer. Brothers, sisters, in the government of Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam, in the Advent and before the Advent, there is no room for weakness in Islam. There is no room for cowardice. There is no room for soft hearts. There is no room for hesitation. Strength is demanded on every single level. It is only through strength, and strength in every aspect of life. We need physical strength. We need economic strength. We need mental strength. We need ideological strength. We need military strength. We need technological strength, cultural strength. We must be the strongest on every level if we are to establish the universal kingdom of Allah Azza wa Jal. Weakness has no place. One weak soldier in your ranks, one weak soldier, and you speak to anybody with any military experience, one weak soldier in your foxhole, in your unit, that hesitates can jeopardize the entire mission and the lives of everyone around him. One weak soldier. Islam demands that we are strong. Allah Azza wa Jal commands you in the Holy Quran, وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ, and prepare for them, for the disbelievers, for the tyrants, for the enemy. Prepare for them what you are capable of mustering from strength. Muster whatever strength you can. Why, Allah Azza wa Jal? Why does He say? So that you may strike fear in the hearts of the oppressors and your enemy. Islam can never be presented as weak. And it is here that my brothers and sisters must forgive me, because I want to address some of the Qurra, inshallah, tonight. Those who recite the Aza of Al-Husayn alayhi salam. Unfortunately, a lot of the times, due to poetry and cultural influence and lack of understanding of Al-Husayn alayhi salam and the Holy Quran, through these lisan al-hal, that we use in the majalis. Lisan al-hal, when we say it is as if I see, and we narrate something that didn't happen, but we are just narrating or reciting poetry. Sometimes we say things without paying attention that present Al-Husayn alayhi salam and the companions of Al-Husayn alayhi salam as weak. Wal-'iyadhu billah. Without going into the examples, because this will open a massive debate. But just a general rule. Any scenario or any poetry or any lamentation or any ta'ziyah or qasida which pictures Al-Husayn ibn Ali alayhi salam as a weak individual, not just Al-Husayn alayhi salam, any of the ma'sumin, and unfortunately most of the time, who is painted with this brush? Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. Wal-'iyadhu billah. That the Imam alayhi salam was a weak, sickly man. This is not what our ahadith say. This is not what the Quran demands. And the Imam alayhi salam is the embodiment of the Holy Quran. Imam Zainul Abidin, yes, he was sick, but even in his sickness, salamullahi alayh, the Imam took his sword and struggled, in our narration say, several times to get onto the battlefield. But the wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jal dictated that the Imam be saved. How is it that we paint Al-Hussein alayhi salam in one scene? In one scene we paint him as the one standing firm in the face of the army, chanting to them, إن الداعي ابن الداعي قد ركز بين اثنتين بين السلة والذلة فهيهات من الذلة. On one end, the Imam is standing firm, refusing humiliation. And in another scene, we paint him as one in all humiliation, asking the enemy for water. This is not Al-Hussein alayhi salam. This is not Abu Abdullah salam. Abu Abdullah alayhi salam is the embodiment of the verse وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ. Al-Hussein alayhi salam is the embodiment of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Al-Hussein alayhi salam is the walking, talking Quran. If the companions of Al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi had come out into the battlefield with bare chests like Abis, who is Abd al-Hussein, he is a servant of Al-Hussein. He comes craving martyrdom. Al-Hussein alayhi salam is going to beg for his life. Wal-'iyadhu billah. Ashura, brothers and sisters, is a symbol of strength. Karbala is the strength of this madhab. Yes, it is a time of mourning. It is a time of musibah and tragedy. However, the stance of Al-Hussein alayhi salam is a stance of strength. Very easily, salamullahi alayh, could have given in to Yazid. Very easily. Very easily could have Al-Hussein alayhi salam said to Yazid, do as you wish, I am returning to Mecca, or I am returning to Medina. Or very easily, he would have given his bay'ah in Medina. Very easily could the companions of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, after these companions were given safety by Al-Hussein and a guarantee that they will not be asked by Allah Azza wa Jal on a night like tonight. On a night like tonight, Al-Hussein alayhi salam gathers his companions and gives them an oath. He says to them, this is the night, let it be your protector. Leave. Leave and you will not be asked, and I will not ask, and Allah Azza wa Jal will not ask why you abandoned your Imam. I have freed you from this obligation. The people only want me. The bravery and the strength of these companions, and the reply is what? That, Ya Abu Abdullah, if we were to be killed, and then our bodies cut into pieces, and then burnt, and then our ashes scattered in the wind, and then we were to be resurrected, and then slaughtered, and then cut into pieces, and then burnt, and then our ashes scattered into the wind. And if this were to happen 1,000 times, ma taraknaka ya Hussein, we would not leave you, ya Hussein. This is the strength. This is the picture we should be presenting to our youth. These majalis of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam need to be schools of indoctrination, need to be schools of strength, of strengthening this ummah, strengthening these Shia through Al-Hussein alayhi salam. As our brothers and sisters in the rest of the world have been doing. Returning the glory of this ummah in the name of Al-Hussein alayhi salam. Do you know what happened in the name of Al-Hussein alayhi salam today? In the name of Al-Hussein alayhi salam. If you think, brothers and sisters, that Salamullahi alayhi Sayyid al-Shuhada was slaughtered on the banks of the Euphrates, and his women and children were taken as hostages and prisoners and paraded around the Islamic Ummah simply so that you and I can sit here and cry, you have done a massive injustice to Al-Hussein ibn Ali. You have done a massive injustice to Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. Hussein alayhi salam gives Ali al-Akbar, gives his Abbas, gives Qasim, gives his own holy blood so that this ummah may preserve its dignity. And only through the blood of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam did this ummah preserve its dignity. And we are seeing this dignity today. Those who are children and students of Ashura. Only those who are students of the school of Karbala are preserving the dignity of this ummah today. No one else. After years of sanctions in Lebanon today, and after the humiliation of the believers there, and the degradation of the believers, and the deliberate starvation and economic embargo by the enemies of humanity, those carrying the banner of Al-Hussein alayhi salam today stood up. Look at the strength and the izz here, the glory of Islam, and said, no more. No more. And it was deliberate that on the day of Ashura, with the name of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, that these fuel tankers have departed the Islamic Republic and have come to the aid to break the embargo on the believers of Lebanon. Sha'a man sha'a wa aba man aba. Who else in the world today is capable of standing in the face of global arrogance and global oppression and global aggression and saying we refuse humiliation? This is the glory of Islam that can only be brought by strength. Never are we allowed to be weak. Never will we allow for the believers to be humiliated again. We have taken the lessons from Al-Hussein alayhi salam and implemented it in the world today. When terrorism threatened our brothers and sisters in Syria, our slogan was لَن تُسْبَى زَيْنَبْ مَرَّتَيْن. We will not allow for Zainab alayha salam to be taken captive again. When they threatened to enter Najaf and Karbala, our marja'iyya, may Allah Azza wa Jal protect and prolong the life of Sayyid Sistani and the rest of our maraja, ignited the Husseini flame in the hearts of these young men, and they came in their hundreds of thousands with their akfan, which is the last character, or the second last characteristic. Amongst the last characteristics we will discuss, inshallah, or the one before the last, is that they are united and organized. In a narration by Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says, فَيَجْمَعَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى لَهُ قَوْمًا قُزَّعْ كَقَزْعِ السَّحَابِ يؤلف بين قلوبهم لا يستوحشون إلى أحد ولا يفرحون بأحد يدخل فيهم على عدة أصحاب بدر لم يسبقهم الأولون ولا يدركهم الآخرون وعلى عدد أصحاب طالوت الذين جاوزوا معه النهر. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, this is part of a very long narration. The Imam alayhi salam, he says their word is united. Their word and their hearts are united on one cause. And they do not smile for anyone, nor do they frown for anyone. Meaning nothing, no words affect them. Nothing, no side will affect them. They are firm and united, and they move like a cloud. When you see them moving like a cloud. None are like them from the beginning, nor will there come anyone like them in the end. We're paraphrasing here. Unity, brothers and sisters, and organization. The Imams alayhum salam tell us about the companions of Imam Al-Mahdi that they are organized in their affairs. They are united and they are organized. Organization has been a slogan of Ahlul Bayt alayhum salam from the advent of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in his wasiyah, what's he say? Allah fi nadmi amrikum. He implores Allah Azza wa Jal, by Allah, organize your affairs. Organization is essential in the success of any project. So if we are talking about the most divine project, the final project of the prophets of Allah Azza wa Jal, this requires organization. We must be organized. Our communities must be organized. Locally, our masajid, our Husayniyat must be united and organized. We are in the age of occultation. We have no room for silly squabbles and disagreements. Wallah, we have no room. We have no excuse not to be united. Because everyone wants to fly his own flag. Because everyone wants to be a leader. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians, as they say. Over the slightest and the smallest thing we disagree. Why? Would it benefit the Imam alayhi? Wallahi, if we approached our communities with this mentality, the mentality that we are here in preparation of Imam al-Mahdi, that every community, no matter where you are in the world, brothers, sisters, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, we've been saying for the past 10 nights, has a universal message, a global message, an establishment, a government which encompasses the entire cosmos. Do not think that just because you live in Australia or in the UK or in Canada or in the US, you have no role. Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam needs supporters in Australia, in Sydney, Australia, in Melbourne, in Canada, in London, in the US, in Uganda, no matter where you are in the world. Approach your community's issues with this mentality that all that we have, all that we do is for Sahib al-Zaman alayhi salam. And that this disunity that we have only damages the mission of Imam al-Mahdi salamullahi alayhi. This disunity that we have only delays the advent of the Imam salamullahi alayhi. This disunity that we have only breaks the heart and upsets the Imam alayhi salam. You think, does anyone take the Imam into consideration when we have these silly squabbles? Over anything we squabble. Soon we are going to have Husayniyat for anti-vaxxers and Husayniyat for pro-vaxxers. Very soon. This is going to be the case. Sheikh vaxxer, Sheikh anti-vaxxer. No longer they follow this marja, we follow this marja. One of the greatest vices that we have as Shia communities in the world, and I've heard this on the tongues of many of our maraji. We pray that one day, that we eradicate the concept or the idea of cultural centers and mosques and Husayniyat. This is a massive vice. And may Allah Azza wa Jal take vengeance and seek vengeance in whoever started this sunnah. Of this is a Lebanese masjid, and that is an Iraqi Husseiniya, and this is an Afghani center, and this is an Iranian Imam Bargha, and what are you talking about? And this masjid will not accept an alim unless he's from this country, and this Husseiniya will not accept a qari unless he's from this racial background. How does this fly with our concept of unity? If we cannot unite under the banner of Sahib al-Zaman alayhi salam today, before his advent, do not expect to unite at the banner or when the banner of Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam comes. And this applies to all the characteristics. If you are not organized before the advent of the Imam, do not think that miraculously you'll become organized at the advent of the Imam. If you are not an aqaidi, you don't have firm belief systems, do not expect for your aqidah to suddenly become firm at the advent of the Imam. If you are not brave, if you are not strong, if you have not mustered every atom of strength possible before the advent of the Imam alayhi salam, do not expect to suddenly become brave at his advent. These characteristics need to be present before the coming of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. Wallahu al-alim. Maybe it is that the Imam alayhi salam is waiting for these characteristics to form and unite in a small group of people, all of them, and then Allah Azza wa Jal gives him the permission to rise. In the camp of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, these characteristics were present. These 70 or so companions, each and every single one of them had these characteristics. Al-Hussein alayhi salam's camp is a miniature model of the camp of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. When we see Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, when we see Abis, when we see John, when we see Al-Abbas alayhi salam, these characteristics, if we do not begin to struggle to develop them today, there will be no place for us amongst the companions of Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif. Inshallah, in the coming nights, we'll be discussing the opposite camp, who the enemies of the Imam alayhi salam are, so that we may identify the enemies of the Imam today and make sure we have no characteristic attributed to the enemies of the Imam. Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولعن عدوهم. اللهم يا رب الحسين بحق الحسين اشف صدر الحسين بظهور الحجة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولعن عدوهم.
صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ومولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا شهيد كربلاء، طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم، ما خاب من تمسك بكم سادتي، وأمن مثواكم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. وكأن الإمام السجاد يخاطب أبو حمزة الثماني: ويلي ما جن جد المصطفى صفوة الباري، فوق الجمال ومقيدة يميني ويساري، والجامعة بصدري ودمع العين جاري، والمرض زايد ودموع من جروحي، ودموع من جروحي تسيل. يا ابو حمزة انت عاتبني وجنك تجهل الاسباب، ولا تشوف البلايا اللي ورثها علينا الباب. وفاطمة اذا يوسف يا ابو حمزة بفراق نعمة يعقوب، انا كم يوسف قبال انذبح وتريدني ما ذوب، ولو ايوب صاب مصابي ما صبر ايوب، وانت يا ابو حمزة تعاتبني كفاية عتاب. ما اقدر يا ابو حمزة ابطل ناحي، ما اقدر فجايع كربلاء ما تنعد، كفاية مصيبة الاكبر. بدر يشبه رسول الله شفته قبالي يتعفر، ويا وصفه يا ابو حمزة تكورها الجمال وغاب. واذا بنسى شلون انسى جاسم خيرة الشبان، صار خبابه من دمه من ثوب العرس لجفان، ودموع النساء والاطفال زفيناه للميدان. ولليوم القلب ذايب يا ابو حمزة الفقدي الشاب. واذا تذبحني مصيبة مصيبة عمي العباس، جميع الروش شالوها قبل للساد ما تنداس، من كثر الضروب ما ظل يا ابو حمزة العم راس، والحسين انكسر ظهره من شاف الاخو منصاب. It's as if I'm not the grandson of the prophet of light. On the camel they chained my left hand and foot and my right, with all my sickness, and I also held great pain for the musibah of the family of my father Hussein. Abu Hamza, you remind me, but as if you don't know what I cry for, and you don't know the tragedies we inherited from Fatima's door. If Yusuf gone missing, blinded his father Yaqub's eyes, how many Yusufs did I see slaughtered, and you expect me not to cry? If the scene I saw befell Ayyub in his time, he would have not been patient over these massacres and crimes. It's enough I saw my brother Al-Akbar become deceased. The copy of the Prophet Muhammad was cut piece by piece. How could I forget my cousin Qasim, the greatest youth in the crowd? His henna was his blood, his wedding clothes were his shroud. And my heart breaks for my uncle as he broke my father's back. Before they removed the heads, Abbas's head was crushed by that pole attack. I saw my father look for humanity when he took Abdullah, the baby, to try get him water, but a three-headed arrow in his throat was their reply. Abu Hamza, I don't know how to tell you what befell my father Hussein, or of that arrow that entered his chest and from his back out it came. And when he fell on the sands and lay there, I can't express the agony of seeing shimmer sit on my father Hussein's chest. How could I tell you, Abu Hamza? How do I bear when shimmer removed my father's head with no mercy or care? Abu Hamza Thumali enters and finds Imam Zainul Abidin crying and says, O son of Rasulullah, death for you Ahlul Bayt is habitual and martyrdom is your honor. Ya ibn Rasulillah, inna al-qatla lakum aada wa karamatukum min Allah ash-shahada fama li bukaika hadha. Imam al-Sajjad replied, Jazakallah khair ya Abu Hamza. It is not so, but every time I look at my aunts and women folk, I remember them running from tent to tent while the enemy called out, Ahriqu buyut al-zalimin, burn the tents of the tyrants. And my auntie comes to me and asks me what they should do. I said, run into the desert. Sayyida Zainab could not keep up, children burning or being crushed on the horse's hooves like Atiqa, daughter of Muslim. Fatima, daughter of Imam Hussein, is attacked by a soldier. He struck her with the bottom of his spear as he rode through the tents. She was robbed, but how? The soldier ripped her earrings out of her ear till the blood trickled profusely down her clothes. She ran to find protection from her father Hussein, but when he was not there, she ran to her brother Zainul Abidin instead. He saw her in that state, embraced her. He was so weak he collapsed. Hamid ibn Muslim narrates, when the men of Ibn Sa'd burned the tents of the women, I saw a young girl running and her clothes had caught fire. So I came to her and put the flames out and asked, who are you? She said, oh Sheikh, have you read the Quran? He said, yes. She said, oh Sheikh, have you read فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ, as for the orphans, do not oppress them? He said, yes, I have read this. She said, oh Shaykh, I am the orphan of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. She asked him, please show me the way to Al-Ghiri. My auntie told me my grandfather Ali's grave is there. She wants to go to the father of the orphans. He said, it is very, very far, but come with me to the Euphrates River to drink, for you are surely thirsty. He said, when we arrived there, she stood at the river and stared and began to cry, a cry that shook the grounds beneath me. And she began to shed tears, saying, how could I drink water? And the son of Rasulullah was killed thirsty. She did not drink, refused to. So Hamid took her back to her aunties and sisters. Zainab runs after the children, losing many many. She walks through the bodies on the plains till she reaches a hill and finds two children of Aqil, son of Abu Talib, laying face down in the sands. They had uncovered their chest, dug holes till they reached the cool, moist part of the sand, and laid their chests there from the extreme thirst to cool their hearts. She tried to move them, but they lay there lifeless. Wa musibata. The women's cries echoed through the tents. Umar ibn Sa'd la'anahullah called out to his men, woe unto you, press on them, attack them and burn their tents with everyone inside. A man called upon Ibn Sa'd saying, woe unto you, Ibn Sa'd, have you not satisfied yourself by killing Hussein and his family and companions, that you burn the children and women? Do you want Allah to send his wrath on us? So they began to rob the women. Zainab narrates, I was standing at the tent of Zainul Abidin as a man enters, stealing everything in the tent. He sees Imam al-Sajjad laying on his bed. He pulls the sheets from under the Imam, causing him to fall on his face. Sick and helpless, the Imam struggled to get up. He then turns to me, removes my face cover and stares at my earrings. He begins to snatch them from me, crying till he removed them. Also another man rips the earrings of the daughter of Imam Hussein. She says to him, you rob me and you cry. He said, Abki ala musabi abi Abdullah, I cry for the killing of Hussein. She said, then why do you do this to us? He said, I fear if I don't, someone else will claim them. I said, may your hands and feet be severed, and may you burn in a fire in this world and the next. Years later, when Mukhtar al-Thaqafi captured the killers of Imam Hussein, he asked this man, did you do this to Zainab? He said, yes. Mukhtar cried, saying, what did she say to you? He told him what she said. Then Mukhtar ordered his men to fulfill her dua. Shimr now came into the tent of Imam Zainul Abidin and told the men to kill him. Zainab stood in front of Imam Zainul Abidin to protect him. Shimr says to Imam Zainul Abidin, this is not the character of Banu Hashim. Do you hide behind women? She did exactly what Sayyidah Fatima did, defending her Imam. Imam Zainul Abidin now is her Imam. They were frustrated. Umar ibn Sa'd then gathered some men and took their horses. They robbed and ransacked Imam Hussein's body, taking his shirt, his turban and his boots. One man tried to take the Imam's ring, but it wouldn't budge. So the Mal'un cut the Imam's finger and took the ring. They then took their horses, known as Khaynul A'wajiyya. These horses are specifically used to crush and grind whatever is beneath them. They say each stump of each hoof weighs up to 70 kilograms. When they approached with these horses, the horses stopped, as no beast or animal would harm the Imams. So they covered the horse's eyes and galloped at his holy body, crushing it. 10 horses trampled the Imam's body. One of the riders, La'anahullah, said, I heard Hussein's rib crack and snap when we crushed him under our horses. Imam Zainul Abidin says, when I found my father, his chest had collapsed onto his back. Wa Husayna. They then began to decapitate and remove the heads of the martyrs, leaving their bodies on the plains for 3 days, burning under the sun with no washing or shrouding. Each tribe had a head to claim, except Harmala la'anahullah. He remembered seeing Aba Abdullah take the body of Abdullah, the infant, behind the tents. How do I say this? He traced the steps and found a shallow grave, dug up the child, wa musibata. They say he didn't even use a knife or sword. The child was already slaughtered already from jugular to jugular. He used his hands to remove the child's head. His tiny head, it was too small for the spear, so the mal'oon tied it with a cloth onto the spearhead. وَرَضِعَهُ. They say that Sayyida Zainab guarded the tents with Kulthum, her sister, and her sister. She told her sister, if you are approached by the enemy, tell them that we are the daughters of Rasulullah. Maybe they will leave us alone. A rider with his face covered approaches, and Kulthum says, Ya Faris Manat, إن كنت تريد قتل الأبطال فإنها قتلت. يا فارس إن كنت تريد سلب النساء فإنها سلبت. يا فارس إن كنت تريد ذبح الأطفال فإنها ذبحت. يا فارس إن كنت تريد حرق الخيام فإنها حرقت. يا فارس بحق أمي الزهراء أن تقول لي من أنت. Alright, who are you? If you are looking for heroes to kill, they have been killed. If you are looking for women to rob for, they have been robbed. If you are looking for children to slaughter, for the children have been slaughtered. If you are looking for tents to burn, for the tents have been burned. Alright, by the right of my mother Fatima, tell me who you are. When the writer heard Fatima's name, he cried, removing his face cover, saying, بنيا أنا والدك علي قد جئت أرد عنكم في هذا الليل. My darling Kulthum, it is me, your father Ali. I came to protect you in this dark night. She replied, where were you, father? Today they killed Al-Akbar, they killed Al-Qasim, they slaughtered Abdullah, the infant, they killed Abbas and severed his hands, and today they killed our brother Hussein. An enemy rider sees a woman standing at a tent, not moving. He said to her, Amat Allah, why do you stand there while the tents burn? She did not reply. Again he said, Amat Allah, the flames have caught onto your cloak. Why do you stand there? She said, O oppressor, ya zalim, ya zalim. لنا عليل في هذه الخيمة. I see the flames engulf us, but we have a sick one in this tent. Zainab took on the roles, many roles, and one was taking care of who was left of the children. Listen to this story. With all that Yazid's army had done and the harsh treatments, the women and children of Ahlul Bayt had endured so much. Like Ruqayya, Amir child on the back of a camel with no saddle, remembers her father Hussein's love and care, and begins to cry so much till an enemy rider promises to strike her if she does not quiet down, then screams saying, be quiet, O daughter of the Khariji. She heard these harsh words and her cries got louder, saying, Father, they killed you and oppressed you. and they killed you thirsty, and now they call you a Khariji. Here the rider throws her off the camel, and it was dark that nobody notices her fall. She got up and began to chase the caravan of sorrows, but could not catch up until the spear that held Imam Hussein's head molded into the ground and could not be moved no matter how hard they tried. He did not want to leave his darling Ruqayya behind. They knew the only explanation could be from Imam Zainul Abidin, and when they asked him, he said, one of the children is lost and this caravan will not move until she is found. Sayyida Zainab Salamullahi alayha heard this and ran into the dark desert looking for Ruqayya until she came across a black figure in the distance. When she went towards it and approached, she found a cloaked woman, and the child was sleeping in her lap. As she brushed her head gently with her hand, Sayyida Zainab asked her, who are you? She replied, it's me, your mother Fatima. Do you think I would ever abandon the orphans of my son? Zainab cried when she took Ruqayya back and asked how this all happened. The reply was Ruqayya saw all her auntie had to carry from trials and sorrow, and how worried she was about all the other children. She did not want to burden her auntie with her, so she called out to her grandmother Fatima to come aid her. وكأني بهم بين الأجساد يمرون مروا على العباس جثاب يا راس نادوا جميع الناس خلهم يشيلون خلهم يشيلون مروا على الجاسم فوق الثرى نايم نادوا بني هاشم خلهم يزفون خلهم يزفون مروا على الأكبر فوق الثرى معفر نادوا بني جعفر خلهم يدفنون خلهم يدفنون مروا على طفلة من نزعوا النبلة خلوني بقى قبل أن تنزلون قبل أن تنزلون مروا على ابن أمي فوق الثرى مرمي نادوا بني عمي خلهم يجهزون خلهم يجهزون. We see the body of Abbas, headless as we all pass. We call out to the mass, please help us to take him. Please help us to take him. We see Qasim lay in the sands, asleep in these strange lands. Call on Banu Hashim, please help us to carry him. Please help us to carry him. We see Ali Akbar, his body torn apart. Call on Banu Ja'far, please help us bury him. Please help us bury him. We pass Abdullah the infant, the slaughtered in a sons. Allow me to kiss his neck before you place him in his grave. Before you place him in his grave. We pass Hussein's headless body, want to farewell, but they reject our plea. Call upon our cousins, please let us shroud him. Please let us shroud him. أنا اللي شفت نارا لكن نار أشد من نار. نار حرقت خيمتنا ونار حرقت باب الدار. أنا اللي شفت بويا علي بالدفن محتار، يبكي نوح على الزغرة وعلى جدي المختار. I'm the one who saw two flames, one flame hotter than the other. One flame burnt our tents and one flame burnt the door of my mother. I'm the one who saw my father Ali lost between calamities, shedding tears for his beloved Zahra and the prophet of humanity. أنا من خدر زينب من أجلي طلعت مفجوعة، وانا اللي شفت شفين الى العباس مقطوعة، وانا اللي شفت خويا حسين من امراض ضلوعة، وانا اللي شفت امي بكسر الضلع مصروعة. I'm Zainab, the one concealed, saw my family being slaughtered. I saw their bodies torn in steel, my brother's hands at Euphrates waters. I'm the one who saw my brother crushed under horses' hooves. I'm the one who saw ribs break by the ones we did not approve. أنا من خدر زينب وانا اللي فجعني البن، وانا كنت محيرة بدنياي، وانا اللي شفت طشتين كبد الحسن في واحد براس حسين. I'm Zainab, the hidden one, my trials would forever remain. I saw two balls with Fatima's sons, the liver of Hassan and the head of my brother Hussein. إن لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. Please let us recite Dua Amma Yujib for a muhtaja and her children who are currently sick with that ugly disease. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 يا كاشف السوء اكشف السوء عنا يا الله. اللهم شافي مرضانا بحق مريد كربلاء الإمام زين العابدين، وفك أسرانا، وانصر مجاهدينا، ولأرواح أمواتنا وأمواتكم. رحم الله من قرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.